Title this JFK. JFK. Now, this unit it will be consist of Kennedy, LBJ, Lyndon B. Johnson, and Nixon. So let's go on to the election of 1960. Let's discuss how this all goes down. For Nixon, we have the Republicans. Nixon is running versus H.C. Lodge, Henry Cabot Lodge Jr., former senator from Massachusetts, also U.S. ambassador to the UN, later an ambassador to South Vietnam, West Germany, and the Vatican. For the Democrats, we have Kennedy, JFK, and Lyndon B. Johnson. Kennedy will win by 118,000 votes. Okay. Now, going into this election, Nixon's got a lot of advantages. Okay. Nixon has 8 years as a vice president. He has served in Congress. He is a resident of a very large state, California, and he was also a veteran. Okay, served in the Navy during World War II in the Pacific Theater. He was a family man. He had a common background. His parents owned a grocery store and a gas station in California, raised in a middle-class family. Where Kennedy, it's almost total opposite. Okay, Kennedy came for money. Okay, his father Joe made huge sums of money with some insider trading, supposedly, on the stock market during the Depression. Also, a little possible bootlegging going on. Most of it came from real estate. Okay, he was very young, good-looking, family, charming. He was a war veteran, a war hero. The PT-9 or PT-109 was one of the interesting stories from this time. August 1st, 1943, he was on a PT boat or a patrol torpedo boat. In the darkness, their boat was hit by a Japanese warship. JFK would help rescue the members of his boat and actually would swim them across to another island. And after the story got out, JFK was a hero. So those are some of the advantages. Now his disadvantages, number one, he was Catholic. Okay? The fear, once again, we've talked about this many times. You know, a Catholic is elected that the Pope would take control of the country. We've talked about that. JFK is the only Catholic president in our history to this date. Okay, we've had one vice president that is Catholic, and that is Vice President Joe Biden. The second thing, his experience. He didn't have a lot of experience. He was also very young. People thought he was too young. He was 43 years old when he was elected. The campaign itself, Nixon tried to cover all 50 states. His vice president, Lodge, was not a good campaigner. Where JFK is going to focus on the bigger states and send LBJ down south. LBJ was a southerner from Texas. Okay, Kennedy didn't think he had a chance down south, being from up north, and so that's why he sends LBJ down there. And the TV debates, okay, JFK was this young, handsome guy with a tan, spoke very well. Nixon was pale, sweated on TV during the debates. His face was all shiny. He kind of looked bad, and we'll see some of those pictures. So he wins. Close, very tight race. You can see the blue are the Democrats, the red are the Republicans. Green is the third party. So now, as JFK, we're going to call his presidency, it's going to be nicknamed the New Frontier. Okay, that was given to his presidency because of the space race started by Ike, and JFK is going to finish it. The New Frontier was space. Okay, I pushed for NASA and space exploration. JFK continues that and promises that the U.S. will put a man into space. And you can see some of these things. We know that he's assassinated. Won a Pulitzer Prize for his book before his presidency. Now, JFK himself, born 1917 to a wealthy family. There are 9 children. The story of their family is pretty tragic. Okay, he had 3 brothers and 5 sisters. His youngest brother, Ted, was a senator. He just recently died. Okay, another brother, Joe, was killed in a secret bombing mission in World War II. And then we know Robert was also assassinated later. Okay, and then his son that was born, John, he'll die in a tragic airplane accident. I'm trying to think when that was. 2000-ish, somewhere in there. 1999, somewhere in there. He attended Harvard. Harvard, yes, Harvard. He was in World War II. We talked about the PT-109, Navy hero. In 1946, he gets elected to there's the PT-109. 1946, he gets elected to the House of Reps. 1952, into the Senate. And then in 1953, he marries Jackie. There she is. Jacqueline Lee Bouvier. In 1960, he became the youngest president elected at 43 years old. Teddy Roosevelt was actually the youngest president ever because he was sworn in at 42 years old, but remember, he took office following McKinley's assassination. Now, his cabinet, and very important, Secretary of State Dean Rusk, Secretary of Defense Robert McNamara, and then his Attorney General, a little nepotism that he was accused of, was Bobby Kennedy, his brother, RFK, as we'll call him. The nepotism thing we've talked about, where you put people in power, he'll be accused of that because he puts his brother-in-law in charge of some other things as well. Domestic programs, a lot of programs that he had was with I should talk about a little bit more about Jackie. Jackie was 31 years old when Jack was elected. Loved the arts, redecorated the White House. Our view of a first lady really comes from today. Our modern day view is Jackie. Okay, they had kids of their own. Once again, one child was stillborn, and another one, Patrick Henry, was born in 1963 but died 2 weeks later. John Jr., as we said, died in, I got the date written down, July 16th, 1999. He was a pilot of an airplane. And then Caroline was their other daughter. And everybody, if you're a Boston Red Sox fan or a Neil Diamond fan, Sweet Caroline, that song is written about her. Now, the domestic programs. Congress did not pass aid to education, Medicare, tax cut, civil rights bill. Okay, they did not pass a lot of these things that he wanted. But what they did pass was urban renewal, raise the minimum wage, the end of the poll tax, the 24th Amendment. So some interesting things and important things there. Now, he is also, his short time as president is going to be dominated by the Cold War. Okay, here's a classic picture of JFK and Khrushchev arm wrestling, sitting on missiles. Okay, the space race is going to dominate this as well. Okay, the space race, we'll have Yuri Gagarin of the Soviet Union will be the first human into space and the first to orbit the Earth. Okay, so once again, they beat us. Not by much, but they beat us. And we're catching up, but it's taken a while. Alan Shepard will be the second human into space and the first American in space in May of 1961. And then we'll have John Glenn, very famous Ohioan. In February of 62, He'll be the third human into space, first American to orbit the Earth, circled the globe 3 times. Okay, so we are catching up. We are catching up. We start the Peace Corps with our foreign affairs. Sergeant Shriver, Maria Shriver, who is Arnold Schwarzenegger's wife. I think they're still married. This is her dad. Another family member in a position of power. Okay, he's going to head the Peace Corps. That's going to be nepotism, accused of nepotism again. Basically, it's going to help impoverished countries. And once again, the point of this is so they don't turn to communism. The Alliance for Progress. Okay, this is basically going to be an extension of some of those things that Ike did. We'll call this a Latin Marshall Plan. It's basically, we're going to build on Ike's programs, the OAS and things like that, provide funding to rebuilding Latin America. Okay, so we don't want them to turn to communists. The Bay of Pigs is a disaster for JFK. Okay, Eisenhower approved it, the funding and training of the Cuban exiles. That we've talked about this already, but JFK makes it happen. Okay. And like I said, it's a disaster. JFK would approve the attack by the 1,500 Cubans. Our airstrikes failed. 2 of our ships were sunk. 1,200 would be taken prisoner. JFK is embarrassed by the miserable failure, and we actually have to pay $53 million in ransom to get those exiles back. It's a disaster. And the Cuban Missile Crisis is in October of 1962. Okay, our American spy planes, these sent us these pictures of missile bases being built in Cuba. The Soviets were going to put nuclear missiles in Cuba that could reach Washington, D.C. in 30 minutes. To us, this could be an act of war. Okay, many will consider this the Cold War showdown as the event that drew the U.S. closest to nuclear war with the Soviet Union. For 13 days, we stood toe-to-toe with the Soviets, and it came down to who would blink first. The Soviets did. Khrushchev backed down. It all came down to this ship that was carrying these missiles. If the ship crossed a certain line, it was on. And at the last possible second, the ship begins to turn around. At this point, this changed a lot of things. We realized that we had to take some precautions. Otherwise, we're going to destroy each other. We started a test ban treaty in August of '63, which is basically we're going to ban atmospheric testing of nuclear weapons. So any other testing that is done now had to be done underground, and both sides agreed to that. So making some progress, but not much. Now, the assassination, November 22nd, 1963. Okay, President Kennedy is actually hit several times with bullets. The last shot left a fist-sized hole in the side of his head. The governor of Texas, who was riding along with him, was also wounded that day. Lee Harvey Oswald would be arrested an hour and 20 minutes later for JFK's murder and the murder of a Dallas police officer. Oswald would die 2 days later when he was being transferred to the Dallas Country Jail. A nightclub owner, Jack Ruby, supposedly with some ties to the mafia, walked up and killed him on live TV. The Warren Commission investigated the assassination for 10 months and concluded Oswald acted alone. Many people believe that there was a conspiracy to kill JFK. There are many different theories out there. Very interesting. I'm not a big-time conspiracy theorist, but it is interesting to read some of these things. Okay, one of the most famous ones is that there was actually a shooter in the grassy knoll in this area, and people have dissected this picture. Some people say you can see a figure in the shadows. I don't know. Okay. There's also the belief of the magic bullet, that if Oswald did make these 3 shots, and one bullet caused all this damage. And some people believe that's kind of far-fetched. We'll talk about some of these conspiracy theories, whether it was the CIA, the Mafia, the Cubans, the Russians. Many, many theories go about. There's even one theory that says it might have been a Secret Service man, whether it was on accident or what. I don't know. Okay. But it's interesting to read about, and I strongly suggest that you try to do that. So who's going to be next? Lyndon Johnson. And this is all also occurring at the beginning, right at the beginning of our intentions with Vietnam, with the war. So we will stop there. Stay classy, Vandalia.